in San Francisco on May 7th, which is a Wednesday at Cobb's Comedy. Get your people, Bay Area, get your family, get your friends, come through. Me and Matt Lieb are doing, we're co-headlining. It'll be so much fun. So come see us, new jokes for this new reality that we're living in.
Awesome. Okay, everyone, I'll see some of you in just a little bit. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than Jackson White. Always fascinating to have his analysis. Top story of the day, we have a major update. Hundreds of years. That is the sentence for two parents who adopted Black children and decided to enslave them. Put up the picture full mass. We've been bringing you this story since day one, providing the updates as they come. West Virginia judge admonishes the white couple, Donald Lance and Gina Whitefeather, who kept their adopted Black children as slaves, gives them the maximum sentence for doing so. Lance, 65, was sentenced Wednesday to a maximum of 160 years behind bars and will not be eligible for parole until he's 101 years old. The 63-year-old Whitefeather, who received a maximum of 215 years, will also have to live in prison, not eligible for parole until she's 112, if she makes it. The couple will also be required to pay a restitution of $280,000 each. But at least they will have access to a working toilet, a luxury not afforded to their two oldest adopted children. They will also receive blankets, which they refuse to provide their oldest daughter and son, forced to spend their nights inside a cold, drafty barn. Now, if you remember in the initial reporting of this story, the law enforcement personnel who found the children locked inside of a barn, and it was locked from the outside, okay? They had no blanket, they had no toilet, and it was cold. The irony is, even with this sentence, they are going to live in conditions much better than the Black children they adopted. Put it up full mass. The judge, before issuing her sentence, listened to impact statements written by four of the children and read in court by prosecutors. The oldest girl, now 18, addressed her adopted mother directly, telling Whitefeather, quote, "I'll never understand how you can sleep at night. I want you to know that you are a monster," end quote. The couple were found guilty in late January of more than 31 counts, including child neglect and human trafficking, among other charges, following 12 days of shocking testimony about the horrors endured by their adopted kids. Whitefeather and Lance were arrested October 2023 in their home near Charleston, West Virginia, after a neighbor spotted him locking the couple's two oldest children into the barn. Now, I'm going to take you back to a reminder of what happened, all right? So deputies responding to the neighbor's 911 call required a sledgehammer to break into the facility, where they found the 16-year-old girl and the 14-year-old child, boy, reeking of body odor with sores on their feet. They slept on a concrete floor, no bedding, and shared a bucket as a toilet. Inside the main house, a 9-year-old girl was found alone crying in a loft with no guardrail, according to prosecutors. The couple adopted the victims, 5 Black children, all siblings, while living in Minnesota. The white couple took the kids with them to Washington State in 2018 before settling in West Virginia May of 2023, when the children ranged in age from 5 to 16. The siblings proved to be quite lucrative for Whitefeather and Lance. A financial intelligence analyst who reviewed the couple's bank statements testified they pocketed $318,000 in child assistance from the state of Minnesota alone. The eldest sibling told jurors, the children were made to stand in their rooms for hours, quote, to prevent us from falling asleep. They also were ordered to keep their hands on their heads, and if they didn't, White Feather would douse them with pepper spray, the teen testified. As prosecutors presented photos inside the home, the 18-year-old recalled an incident where Lance hit one of her brothers in the head with a PVC pipe. She testified how the children were cursed at, quote, all the time, especially by White Feather, who often used racial taunts and was found guilty on 4 counts of civil rights violations as well. The children lived on a diet of peanut butter sandwiches. Often left over from a previous meal. They were not allowed to eat except during those scheduled feedings and drank only water after their meals. The 18-year-old testified to this. She had only a sleeping bag on the floor in the barn in which to sleep, while a teenage brother was given just a piece of cardboard to use as a pillow. The oldest child said she went about 2 months without taking a shower or brushing her teeth. They spent their days carrying supplies, gardening, digging holes for trees, clearing land, gathering water from a creek, and tending to animals on their farm. That's according to the eldest daughter. The siblings received absolutely no schooling at all. There's more. The daughter testified that when the family lived in Washington, the children were made to sleep in tents on a hill because White Feather told them, quote, we were dirty and that we stunk. Quote, I felt like I wasn't ever going to get out of that situation, she said after neighbors in West Virginia noticed them performing hard labor outdoors. The 18-year-old said they spent their final months with the couple locked inside. We were always locked up, she testified. The children are now living separately, with the oldest male child undergoing psychological counseling. Last month, one of the children filed a lawsuit against Lance and White Feather, alleging they experienced shocking and severe physical and emotional abuse and neglect while under the couple's care. From day one, this was one of the most horrific stories we've covered at Indisputable. It's difficult for you to hear that. It's difficult for me to report it. It's much more difficult for them to experience it. There were 3 opportunities prior where law enforcement got wind in other jurisdictions that something was going on with this family. And what the family would do is they would basically move every time someone got wind of their abuse or there was an accusation. Somebody may be coming later for a pending investigation. They would simply move. And when they would move, the previous jurisdiction would basically lose interest in following up in the investigation. And that is how they were able to avoid authorities or responsibility for their crimes. This is a note to those who work in these agencies. Don't allow them to get away that easily. This could have been stopped a few years before it was, if the agencies decided to follow up outside of the state jurisdiction. But they did not. This story strikes me personally because I was a foster child myself and could not imagine going through such an extreme and evil scenario. Being a foster kid is hard enough. These individuals decided to make their foster children their slaves. Decided to not allow them to have access to education, made them perform hard labor every day, and they only ate the scraps left over from their tables. The striking irony is those who were enslaved in America actually got a better treatment than that. Sometimes they actually had a full meal. They were able to sleep in the quarters that they could get some rest because those evil slave masters of that day wanted them to be rested enough to work. These individuals were even more evil than that. All right. Jackson, thoughts here?
Yeah, I think one of the initial things that anybody would think about when they hear about a story like this is just the overall vetting and monitoring process in the foster and adoption system, how that works. I grew up with a variety of people who were in adopted homes, and they were in the homes that I knew them in were good, but some of them came from homes that weren't. So, just what types of people this can attract. And because, these people were clearly completely, well, not were, are just completely out of their minds, living out some type of like sadistic torture fantasy.
Yeah.
Because, this is the type of stuff you see, and it's like, how did you think that you were going to get away with something like this? Like, was there any thought process in that? Like, we're just going to keep them forever, treat them horribly, work them as slaves, not wash them, not give them basic accommodations. So clearly these people are completely insane and, likely going to have a rough time in prison because that's not going to fly well in there.
Right.
And obviously they're not going to live to be, like 105, 112 were the ages for when they're up for parole or something like that. But yeah, I think, the most constructive question that I'm thinking from this is just the overall vetting process for the foster system such that these people could do this at all.
And I concur. Our positive thoughts, prayers, vibrations go out to the children. I want to put the judge back up just for a moment. I want to take a moment to specifically say thank you to her. That judge gave them the maximum allowable under the law. That's how you make an example. And no matter what, those kids will remember that judge. All right. Well, it has been done. Department of Education, no more. Put it up full mass. Trump has signed an executive order eliminating the Department of Education. So he set to sign this long-anticipated executive order Thursday that seeks to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education, delivering on the campaign promise to completely dismantle the Department of Education. Keep the picture up. This is so extreme because no one was checking for this. No one was voting for Trump to dismantle the Department of Education, not even MAGA. If you look at MAGA polling data, those that self-identified as MAGA and Trump supporters, or even conservatives, aka Republicans, they would say things like cost of living, okay? The economy. Some of them even said stock market, but nobody really had the Department of Education on the chopping block to such a degree to make it a first priority. So Trump is expected to sign the order, which has been in the works for weeks, at a White House ceremony attended by several Republican governors, state education commissioners as well. Trump would direct his education secretary, Linda McMahon, who has no experience in the field, to take, quote, all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to the states, according to a White House summary of the order reviewed by USA Today. It also calls for, quote, uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. Okay, however, Trump's efforts to shut down another department has been blocked. Trump's order, which is almost certain to invite legal challenge from the left, sets a new test for the boundaries of presidential authority. After Trump's administration's effort to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development were blocked this week by a federal judge in Maryland. So the department, established as a cabinet level agency by Congress. This happened in 1979. Will not close immediately with Trump's signature. Eliminating it in its entirety would require an act from Congress. Harrison Fields, White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary, said in a statement to USA Today, the order, quote, will empower parents, states, and communities to take control and improve outcomes for all students. He said recent test scores on the National Assessment of Educational Progress exam reveal a national crisis. Our children are failing or falling behind. Federal funding for students with disabilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Title I funding for low-income schools, and federal student loan payments will remain unchanged under the order while McMahon works on a plan to, quote, bring these funds closer to states, localities, and more importantly, students, the White House said. Under the order, education programs or activities that receive, quote, any remaining Department of Education funds will not be allowed to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion or gender ideology, according to the White House. Okay. Republican governors Ron DeSantis of Florida, Glenn Youngkin of Virginia, Greg Abbott of Texas, and others are expected to attend this ceremony. Now, before I continue, let's explain what's really happening. Many of you know I work as a college professor at multiple universities. This is what actually is going down. This is not the elimination of DEI. It is the rise of white supremacy. The disguise of eliminating DEI is a ruse. What they're attempting to do is create a platform that allows those who are still currently in charge. Because remember, through the diversity dynamics associated with not only public institutions, but private institutions, those who are either A, people of color, or B, women, were starting to have the leadership roles that they deserved. They are stopping that from happening. So right now, their guys are still squarely in charge, statistically, okay? They are freeing up their guys, white males in particular, to continue doing the things that we said holistically were wrong to do in the 1960s, to hire based on race bias. They are eliminating the barriers, allowing a rise of white supremacy to come back and to come back with a vengeance. Now, how do they plan to do this? They don't have a plan. They have no plan at all. We're having meetings damn near every day in higher education, trying to figure out what to do. Already research programs are dried up. You have major research organizations connected to federal funding. They don't know what to do, which means PhD programs, doctoral programs from medical institutions and beyond, shutting down now. Why? Because they have to project what's happening to them. They have to make a plan just in case there's absolutely no funding. So things are happening today. Things are happening now. All right. Put a full mask. The Trump administration is pausing $175 million in federal funding to the University of Pennsylvania. Why? Because of its transgender athlete policies. The White House announced Wednesday in the Post on X. Reminder, Penn made headlines in 2022 when a trans athlete, Leah Thomas, competed on the women's swim team and went on to become the first trans woman to win an NCAA swimming championship. Now, for those who may get bent out of shape about that, they're utilizing an anti-discriminatory clause. When was the last time a university lost all of their funding or was penalized to a degree of $175 million when they violated a discrimination clause against, let's say, a Black person or a brown person or a member of the LGBTQ community or a woman. My point is, these technical violations, these disagreements between the federal government and a local school, local institute of higher education, they happen routinely. They happen routinely. There are scrimmages here routinely. But to penalize the entire educational system and every single student there because of their political bias and their current disagreement with an institution is utterly insane. And for those who are watching this, I hope you see it for what it is. This is not some benevolent way to create a policy for the MAGA crowd to be happy. This is a way to justify shutting down institutions that teach. And they're utilizing this university because if they can get away with it at the University of Pennsylvania, they can get away with it at an HBCU. They can get away with it at your local community college. They can get away with it at your local tech institute. That's the reason. Okay? All right, the Post said the Ivy League universities' policies are, quote, forcing women to compete with men in sports and ended with the Trump tagline, promises made, promises kept. A spokesperson for the University of Pennsylvania said that it is aware of media reports about the suspension, but the university has not received any official notification or details. That is the Trumpian way. No letter, no official anything. Well, it's official. Well, he put it on X. That makes it official, right? All right, Jackson, thoughts here.
Well, really what we're looking at is the culmination of a process to cut public access to social mobility, because things like going after the Department of Education have long been in the background of the Republican agenda. Mind you, Linda McMahon donated $20 million to Trump's campaign, so that's how she got that job. One of the most corrupt administrations in American history. But going after public access to social mobility makes it such that you can subjugate your opposition and make things like healthcare and education, and I mean, even access to good roads to get around, access to good food and water, to make that more and more of a privilege and less of a right, so that your opposition has less power to go after you and threaten you. Sacrificing the future for a war that they've long lost, that culture war being, the adherence of white supremacy and shunning and stunting the growth of minority communities, whether that be Black communities, brown communities, the LGBTQ community as a whole, which is a very pervasive community because, you can't necessarily tell who's gay or bi or trans just by looking at them. These people come from every community. So just the attempt to put the cat back in the bag, you know what I'm saying? To put the toothpaste back into the tube, sacrificing the future by going after public education. I mean, this department, I got some stats here. They will $33 billion to public schools for low income students, 12 million plus students with grants and loans. Like, this type of stuff cuts off our ability to participate in the workforce with the rest of the world. 54% of American adults read at or below like a fourth grade level, which points to the public's lack of the ability to critically think, which is a generational issue. So this just is not a good idea in any way when you look at the stats of how we compete with the rest of the world with like math and science and reading and what have you. But again, the only real logical way that this makes sense is, like I said, cutting off public access to social mobility so that you can subjugate your opposition.
Yeah. And this is a workaround to basically get rid of the separate but equal dynamic. When that argument was made, it was about resources. And the opposition argued, yes, we can actually maintain these institutions that are segregated because we can utilize the doctrine of separate but equal. What they're doing is eliminating the federal administrative dynamic for these resources, which will mean you go back to a de facto separate and unequal policy, which was the very policy that we fought in the 1960s and beyond. All right. Hell of a thing. We have an update. Black woman who received a settlement now gets death threats. She got a $280,000 settlement approved. Put up the picture for a mass. Interesting story, but this is the America we are in. Chicago woman whose tooth was knocked out of her mouth by a white cop receives racist death threats just one day after the city approved a $280,000 settlement. That settlement should have been more, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So Chicago activists who just received $280,000 in a settlement after she was struck in the face by an officer during a 2020 protest received a racist death threat just one day after the city council granted her the payout. So here's what happened in 2020. Miracle Boyd, Miss Boyd, was 18 when she attended a 1,000-person protest at Grant Park, where demonstrators were trying to knock down a Christopher Columbus statue. As tensions flared during the protest, Boyd began filming an officer making a violent arrest. The cop saw Miss Boyd, knocked her phone out of her hand, and then hit her in the face so hard that the blow knocked out one of her teeth. The City Civilian Police Accountability Committee found that the officer did in fact use excessive force and also made false statements about the assault, stating that he, quote, grossly mischaracterized what happened when he filed an incident report, okay? The cop resigned from his job in 2022 after the board recommended he be terminated from his position. Boyd filed a lawsuit against the cop who and two other cops in federal court. Last year, the Chicago City Council approved the settlement to resolve the complaint for more than $250,000. This was on March 12th. So a day after the social justice organization Good Kids, Mad City, where Boyd works, received a letter addressed to the activists. According to the tribe who obtained the copy, the first line read, quote, Miracle Boyd deserves to be knocked unconscious and be hanged from a tree, adding that, quote, she got what she deserved, referring to the attack in 2020. The letter also included slurs and profanities aimed at Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, okay? Quote, F that N-word mayor, Brandon Johnson. Hopefully, President Donald Trump puts that piece of ish in a cage, just like the ape in the movie Trading Spaces, the letter reads, an apparent reference to the 1983 Eddie Murphy comedy Trading Places. The threat didn't have the sender's name or return address. A postmark indicated that the United States Postal Service received the mail on March 11th in the Chicago suburb of Carroll Streams, Illinois, the tribe reports. So Ms. Boyd issued a statement as well. Boyd said that she will not let the vitriol affect her, especially when she's preparing to give birth to her first child in May. Quote, I'm not letting it get to me because I'm strong and brave. I'm brave enough to know to make smart decisions, but it seems like my safety is on the line. And I'm about to bring a child into the world that people just are not going to accept, Boyd said. I still have a whole community of folks who will support me, my first child, and everything else that comes with it. There you go. And you have this community as well, supporting you 100%. Thank you for being brave. I hope there's an investigation pending. The first place to investigate would be law enforcement. Because law enforcement, they are the ones who have the motive. If this were any other entity that you had just won a settlement against and you received a death threat immediately after winning a settlement against said entity, that said entity, which has motive, will be the first entity to be investigated. So I hope they are investigating how, why, and if the police were involved. Another dynamic, you are in good company. Dear sister, you are in good company. Anytime racist bigots are upset at you because you fight racist bigots, you are doing the right thing. That is how it's supposed to happen. If racist bigots were not upset at you, you're not doing it right. All right, Jackson, thoughts here.
Racism is like fungal spores that just, you can't ever really get rid of it, it seems. Like it's just part of the human condition. All we can ever do is try to make a more equitable society more and more, but it's just part of our division and our tribalism rearing its ugly head. But I mean, how can you really be mad at this woman for winning a settlement for what happened? Like, I mean, this isn't even an issue where it's like, oh, this isn't fair. The police were right, or there's some type of room for doubt. Like she got smashed in the face. Like there's no, I mean, but we live in a climate now that really fosters this type of energy. And in a lot of ways, this is what MAGA's all about. So unfortunately, we're going to have a lot more of this over the next 4 years. And hopefully it doesn't escalate too big, but it's not looking good.
Yeah. But if it does, we're here and we will go nowhere. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
Here I am, Nancy Pelosi, saying this country needs a strong Republican Party, and we do.
No one is representing what I call the silent majority, which is about 2/3 of this country, indisputably progressive.
But now we say the time has come for regime change in American television.
The Young Turks Network.
You have the Young Turks saying this is the time to fight for our values.
Young Turks is the oldest left media institution, I believe, that there is. Real front runner in the online media space.
You guys might know us. Biggest online left of center outlet that exists.
All of you know the Young Turks.
People from this district heard about Justice Democrats by watching your show.
Thanks to the Young Turks for covering Trayvon Martin's case early on when few people were covered.
They don't stop, I won't stop. Racism won't stop, so I won't stop.
Species are at risk of going extinct. Major media outlets did not dedicate much time at all to that.
We reached a whole heap of people with our progressive message.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day, we looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone. 25 billion lifetime views.
Damn.
Too strong, way too strong. That's 25 billion times someone watched the progressive message delivered to people all over the world. You know who helped to do that? You guys did. Our members and our audience are amazing, and they helped us to reach 2 generations, both millennials and Gen Z. They're both super progressive. And I gotta tell you, we're just getting started. Thank you.
All right,
Lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Billy B. Taylor. What do you know? Billy says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Cenk and Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, welcome back. Okay, we got a lot of comments. I appreciate everyone for joining the convo. And don't forget, you can always catch Indisputable on the podcast, whatever podcast you prefer. We're virtually everywhere. All right. Yep. Okay, Mark, NYC. Only out of sheer will to live did all those poor angels find the strength to survive. That's right. That is right. Yeah, that's possible. Don Peter Sims, I think. Trump will probably pardon them. It's so sad. Like there was a time that would have just been a complete joke, right? Not today. It's an actual possibility. Hell, the governor may make a campaign for them, say they were not given a fair trial, etc. Dana Manning, Dr. Richard, you have such a beautiful heart. Thank you for reporting on these difficult stories. We know how tough it is for you, but also how important it is. Thank you for saying so. And it is important for the victims to have advocates, because as they continue to progress and to grow, their journey needs to be sprinkled with people who give a damn. It makes a difference. And yep, Nish, keep everyone uneducated, ramp up the propaganda. I've never understood the need to lord over other people, but to do it at the cost of getting steamrolled yourself is wild. It's a ghetto here. And that's correct. Dex, the executive order, if it ever gets off the ground, will begin the handover of our compulsory education system to oligarchs. That's correct. That's correct. Building and all. Yeah, you are right. That's the plan, in my opinion. All right, we got something for you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Let me see. What do you want to? I'll break your you low life. What do you want to do? Come out. Come out. So I can what time it is. You nobody. Hiding behind that little you low life. Try me over. Scumbag. What? Why don't you get out? Let's wait for the cops. Fucking lowlife. Fucking should take your fucking head off.
Yeah, all right. I'll put it up full mask. So here we go. We have a male Karen threatens and spits on a driver from his car. So during a road rage incident, this male Karen became so enraged that he decided to spit on another driver while spewing the F word. Let's keep the picture up full mask. Somebody hopefully knows you can do an intervention. I don't understand how someone can make you so upset within a very short amount of time that you feel as if spewing your saliva is an appropriate response. Because that kind of action can really, under certain circumstances, sir, can I be frank, can get the brakes beaten off of you. It didn't happen this time. But hopefully somebody loves you enough to do an intervention. You cannot continue to live like this, sir. All right? Okay. Jackson, when somebody decides to do that to you, that's a whole different situation. You've now went from A to Z in about 1 second.
Right. And I mean, that you said that can get your behind whooped, that can get you shot. Like,
Yeah.
is it, like, and depending on what state you're in, like a lot of people just have guns on them routinely and casually. I'm back living in Missouri, and that's one of the differences between living out in like New Jersey, New York, and here. Like everybody got guns in Missouri, so if you could do something like that to somebody that you think is just a sweet old granny, and spitting on somebody is one of the most disrespectful things you can do. So. And I've always personally thought that just road rage was kind of silly, like everybody's going to different destinations. Is it really that big of a deal? But man, you can't just be spitting in people's cars. Get shot. You can't be playing the victim.
Yeah. There you go. So hopefully, like I said, somebody loves you, sir. All right. This is a hell of a story out of Georgia. A man has been arrested in connection to the deaths of black twin brothers. This story has a lot of twists and turns. It's going to make your blood boil. Put up the picture full mask. In Georgia, Quadir and Nazir Lewis, 19 years of age, were found dead just hours after they were expected to fly to Boston to visit friends on Saturday, March 8th. Their plane tickets were reportedly still in their respective wallets, found at the scene of the crime. Hikers discovered their bodies at the top of Bell Mountain. This is near North Georgia. It is the Georgia-North Carolina border, dozens of miles from where families say the brothers were living. Although police suspect the brothers died in a murder-suicide by gunshot wound, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has confirmed the arrest of former Towns County volunteer firefighter Scott Curlin, 42 years of age, in connection to the case. It gets even more interesting. According to the reports, the firefighter was fired on March 14th after he allegedly violated department protocol. Towns County Commissioner Cliff Bradshaw told 11 Alive. Curlin has not been charged directly in the deaths of the brothers, but he was hit with misdemeanor obstruction for allegedly snapping photos of the twins' dead bodies and then leaking those photos to the public, according to the GBI. The GBI's medical examiner has not shared the complete autopsy reports to the public yet. According to a spokesperson, additional forensic tests are still pending. The family, however, continues to dispute the murder-suicide ruling, saying the twins would never hurt each other. Their aunt, Yasmin Bronner, said, quote, "They wouldn't do anything like this. To say they did this to each other? No. Something happened in those mountains and we want answers," end quote. In the meantime, their family has set up a GoFundMe in support of organizing a memorial for both of them. Obviously, this is not something you planned for as a parent. Quadir and Nazir You can go to that GoFundMe and assist. There are a lot of dynamics to this story. And we've been following this story in the state of Georgia. So one thing that stuck out to many is that they were in an area that normally they would not have been. And no one has been able to give an explanation as to why they were in those mountains and why did they miss their flight. Absolutely no information. And then the ruling of this murder-suicide thing happened so quickly. Once again, there's no exhaustive investigation before the proclamation of murder-suicide. And thirdly, how many times have we reported on Indisputable a mother's intuition or family's intuition where they knew something was off? And because of their willingness to continue to push the reality of how they knew the person, that actual justice was served and the person or people accountable were held to account. We've seen this many times on this show. There's no motive. There's no motive. There's no bad blood. These are twins. These twins, according to everybody in the family, these individuals wouldn't hurt other people, let alone each other in this manner. Nothing is adding up. Nothing makes sense. And then to add on top of the chaos and the confusion, you have a local authority, obviously tied into not only the fire department, but also obviously the police department, the medical examiner's department. These individuals don't work in silos, they work together. He then takes a picture and releases it to the public. But you can't do that in a silo. You can't do that by yourself. That means you got some public folk that you can talk to, that you can release this picture to. So who are you talking to in the public to release the picture? And why are you doing it in the first place? Who told you to do this? Have you ever done this before? If you've never done it before, that means that you're probably under a directive for the first time to do something like this, because I'm sure it's not the first time that a dead body has been found in that area. But why this time did you decide to do these actions? There are more questions than answers. I'm with the family on this one. There needs to be an exhaustive investigation into every element of this case. And hopefully there will be a just outcome, but we're going to stay on top of it until there is. Jackson, thoughts here?
Yeah, I think the suicide notion is that seems incredibly unlikely for, two young men at the stage that they were in their lives, and their family didn't say that they were ever suicidal or depressed or anything like that, for them to just take themselves out there and do that. More likely they were kidnapped for some reason, but definitely something that no parent should have to deal with. They had their whole lives ahead of them, and they definitely deserve justice. So hopefully we get more concrete information in the coming months.
Yeah, and that's what the family deserves, concrete information, a very extensive and exhaustive investigation before any conclusion is made. All right, we got an update. They're getting rid of Jackie Robinson now, okay? We have an update and an update. So let's go to it. Here it is.
I think the single dumbest phrase in military history is our diversity is our strength. I think our strength is our unity. Our strength is our shared purpose. In this department, we will treat everyone equally. We will treat everyone with fairness. We will treat everyone with respect. And we will judge you as an individual by your merit and by your commitment to the team and the mission.
A page dedicated to Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson's military history has been removed from the Department of Defense's website. A previously existing article. Yeah, a previously existing article about Robinson's time in the Army during World War II now shows one of those page not found errors. And the new webpage URL includes DEI before the story's headline, indicating it might have been taken down as part of the Trump administration's efforts to eliminate federal DEI programs.
There's some twists and turns here as well. Put up the picture for a mask, okay? Let's get into it. Pentagon removed Jackie Robinson's military history on the website. Jackie Robinson became the first African-American player in the 20th century to take the field in the American or National League, says the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Robinson also served in the U.S. military as a second lieutenant and trained as an officer You can find that source on NBC News. ESPN reporter Jeff Passan asked the Pentagon why the article on Jackie Robinson was removed, uncovering it was related to President Donald Trump's ban on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. As Secretary Pete Hegseth has said, DEI is dead at the Department of Defense. Discriminatory equity ideology is a form of woke cultural Marxism that has no place in our military. Pentagon press secretary said in a statement. Now, quote, it divides the forces, erodes unit cohesion, and interferes with the service's core warfighting mission. We are pleased by the rapid compliance across the department with the directive removing DEI content from all platforms. In the rare cases that content is removed, either deliberately or by mistake, that is out of the clearly outlined scope of the directive. We instruct the components and they correct the content accordingly, the statement included. So after much backlash, the Pentagon later restored Robinson's story and an accompanying statement. Quote, everyone at the Defense Department loves Jackie Robinson, as well as the Navajo Code talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, all right, the Marines at Iwo Jima, and so many others. So we salute them for their strong and in many cases heroic service to our country, full stop. We do not view or highlight them through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, ethnicity, or sex. We do so only by recognizing their patriotism and dedicated to the warfighting machine like every other American who has worn the uniform. This comes after our coverage of the removal of Medal of Honor and Purple Heart recipients page that also was later restored. So what's happening here? Because clearly they're being removed under the DEI protocol, because when you go to the site, the error page will read DEI and then provide the former or the previous web link or web address. So why are they being removed in the first place? Well, because they have set a protocol within a system or a program to delete these particular pages. They're not being thoughtful about it. They're deleting anything that's black or brown, okay? So they're deleting everything. And then when somebody makes hay, when there's backlash, when there's a, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know you meant Jackie Robinson. Wait, we love Jackie Robinson. Whoa, wait a minute, we didn't know you meant these guys. I mean, they have more Purple Hearts than everyone else. Yeah, because they work their asses off. That's right. The reason this is happening is because they have set the program to just eliminate folk based on color. If they were thoughtful about how this was done, these disasters would not happen. And if they truly care about the service of these other individuals that they claim they do, then why not correct the damn program to stop this? It's almost as if you're getting rid of everybody and you're going to see which ones we're outraged about and which ones we're not. All right, Jackson, it's a hell of a thing, man, but this is the best and the brightest according to Hegseth.
I mean, these people are like just so juvenile. Like they're cartoon characters and they're so ineffectual in what they do. It's just like, me no likey black people. Whoops. Right. Looks like we gotta hire back all those people we fired that we need. Like, I mean, it's like there's no real plan. I mean, other than the same old business of like cutting taxes and deregulating everything, there's no real agenda. It's like a bunch of pissed off dipshits who, I mean, like what, like when Hegseth up there talk, like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard is that our strength is in our diversity. Like, it's not that deep, bro. Like, it's really easy to understand what that means is that we can all come together to work as a unit. And then he's like, our strength is in our unity. Like that you're saying the same thing, just with other words. Like, this dude was on the Fox 5. Like, he was just some Saturday, Sunday morning cartoon host. And these people are running the government. And it's like, they're causing damage, but you kind of just got to laugh at it because it's so stupid. These people are idiots.
Yeah. Arguments are juvenile. They don't care how juvenile their rebuttals are. They don't care how sloppy this whole thing is implemented. No. They're the best and the brightest. Just keep saying that over and over again and somebody believes it. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Using the military inside the United States, totally unacceptable. And there's no need for it. Well, our cops can't arrest drug cartel gang members? Of course they can. They have great numbers in the past. And the military doesn't do a better job of policing than the police does, no matter whatever you think of the failings of the police. So it's just, there's no need for it. And second of all, anytime we start calling people terrorists, here comes the demagoguing. So the word has no meaning. It doesn't really, it's never used consistently. It's only used against people we don't like. So it's just totally, best case scenario is totally needless. Worst case scenario used for demagoguing and military force. So the third bucket is, should we invade Mexico? Are you kidding me? Why would we attack Mexico? What kind of lunatic talk is this? And I know why Trump's doing it. He thinks keep everything on the table, right? And let me make sure that I use my leverage, and this is among my options. I get it. But it sounds mental, and it's destabilizing for the world when we threaten to invade half the countries in our hemisphere.
What are some of your proudest projects at TYT? CDR, I mean, pitching the idea for this show and making it a reality and seeing it grow and evolve over the past 5-6 years. Dear God, has it been 5-6 years? But I have to say True North as well. The farthest reaches of the earth being traveled to by TYT, embedding with a team of scientists, producing this absolutely beautiful footage of a part of the world that doesn't receive much attention on a topic that I really care about. That's always gonna be super important to me.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Turk special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
It's like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow.
And then the best writers in the country are right here on this panel with the obvious exception of John.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. The mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I'll read as many as I can. All right, Dick says, what is it about Karens and spitting? Seems to be a thing. It does, for sure. About the twins, David Morris says, those handsome young men had everything going for them. Suicide, unlikely. All right. Winter school. They bought plane tickets and had them ready on them. Nobody plans to fly somewhere else and also plans to a murder-suicide pact. Yeah, none of these things are adding up. That's right. I think this is Blacker_Jack, member for 1 month. Thank you so much. He learned this from the San Diego Sheriff Department, talking about taking the picture. And yeah, we remember reporting on that. Queen Gigi from GI. Close the website, period, if you are taking all Black people off the website. Yep. Stacked in Florida. How long till they get rid or destroy the Museum of African American History in DC? I love that place. Yeah. Hopeful hearts and open eyes. They are dismantling unity among people that are different. They want us divided over absolutely everything and no reason to like each other. This is social engineering. Yeah, social engineering, and it's happening fast. And David Moore's right on Jackson to call them clowns. It's an insult to clowns.
Oh, yeah. I would say other stuff, but, I don't want to demonetize the show. So
there you go. Right. Yeah, that was funny. Okay. All right. So, yeah, a new shaving policy could result in Black Marines losing their jobs. Here's an overview of the effect.
So why aren't you clean shaven? I'm not clean shaven because I do have a condition called pseudometiculitis. It's when your hair grows out and back into your skin, which causes your hair follicles to be more into your skin, causing your face to turn red and causing there to be bumps.
For years, I've heard anecdotally about the struggles of some Black male sailors who have been diagnosed with something called pseudofolliculitis barbae or razor bumps. To varying degrees, sailors will get really bad, just like fields of razor bumps on their neck. They then try to shave through them. That causes a lot of bleeding and sometimes scarring for some of these men. But in the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Mike Gilday banned permanent no-shave waivers in 2019. Banning the permanent shaving waiver basically just means that instead of getting one piece of paper that says, hey, I have this condition, I'm allowed to grow a beard, now sailors have to shave, get the razor bumps, go to medical, show the razor bumps to medical, and get a 90-day shaving waiver. So
you literally have to injure yourself in order to receive a 90-day waiver for a condition that does not automatically go away. And remember, the condition is brought on by the razor, the unnatural cutting of the hair. Put up the picture full mass. I'm going to explain this because as a Black male, this is one of those things we are intimately knowledgeable of, every single one of us. And I've experienced this myself. Fortunately, mine is underneath my chin and it's difficult for other people to see it. But if you're close enough to me, you'll see it as well because the condition doesn't go away, okay? It's very simple. Because of the razor, I'm going to explain how it happens, okay? Because of the razor cuts the hair, and after you finish shaving, your skin grows faster than your hair. So your skin has covered where the hair would normally grow. And so it grows inside of the skin and it curls up and it creates this bump and sometimes there's pulse, etc. If you're forced to shave through that, okay, you're now bleeding and bleeding significantly. And now you've also created an opportunity for infection. And that is what the military is asking their men to do, to injure themselves. Talk about a cultural disconnect. Okay, let's put it up. based on a new policy, people who are inflicted with a skin condition that can cause pain and scarring, which, by the way, this happens, majority, it happens to black men, all right, just so you understand, that can cause pain and scarring on their face. These are razor bumps, but it is a skin condition. It's an epidermal condition. They can now be kicked out of the military, out of the Marines, if it does not clear up within a certain amount of time. So this may greatly affect black men, according to the Marine Corps Times. The U.S. Marine Corps has stated that any Marine who has been diagnosed with this skin condition has to undergo medical re-evaluation within 90 days to see if they still will require a shaving waiver due to the condition. The message was issued on March 13th after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a review of military fitness and grooming standards. A treatment plan was suggested for Marines with this skin condition, with the goal of, quote, returning service members to grooming standards and ensuring maximum warfighting readiness. Okay, listen, I've never served in the military, but I've spoken to some people who have. And they have assured me that the ability to shave is not a war readiness thing. And having an injured anything, it could be an injured epidermis, facial epidermis. That's actually a problem and works against you in combat readiness. And exposing yourself and others to infection due to this facial epidermal dynamic is also a bad idea, but not according to Pete. There's more. The treatment plan has a 4-phase regimen. In the first phase, Marines will avoid shaving for 4 weeks until the razor bumps subside. This can be a very painful process, by the way. The second phase will allow Marines with moderate to severe cases to stop shaving for up to 8 weeks, or another 4 weeks if they are already going through the first phase, including potential hair removal, depilatory treatment. Phase 3 gives the Marine an additional 4 weeks of the same treatment if the condition remains. In the final 4th phase, Marines whose razor bumps don't improve will be referred to a dermatologist for a potential laser treatment that will be paid for by the government. Once again, I need to remind everyone, this is a condition. Now, I'm sure there are some nuances, but this is a condition that I've only seen in black males. I have never seen this condition outside of a black male, okay? There's more. A currently practicing military dermatologist who spoke on the condition of anonymity, as they were not authorized to speak to the press, told military.com on Friday that the Marine Corps' new policy could have discriminatory effects against black service members who disproportionately have this condition compared to their peers and often require a shaving exemption to avoid making it worse. Black service members make up about 15 to 16% of the active duty force, they said, but 66% of the shaving waiver holders are black. The dermatologist said the shaving waiver holders promote more slowly than their peers and often leave the military early due to its cultural aversion to beards. Quote, you could have a white person, black person, a Hispanic person, Asian person on a shaving waiver. They're all going to get discriminated against. They're all going to promote slower, they said. But again, the vast majority of the waiver holders are black and African Americans. So that's where the racial discriminatory impact comes. Quote, so anything that is negative that you can apply broadly to shaving waiver holders, whether they promote slower, whether we're going to separate them from service, whether they receive disciplinary action more often, anything that's negative, you apply broad strokes to a shaving waiver group is going to disproportionately affect black men and African-American individuals, the dermatologist said. Now, I want you to remember what Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, said. He said, we're treating everybody the same. Everybody will receive fair treatment here. Everybody will be treated equal here. Okay? That's what he said. But according to an official from the military, that's not what has happened, nor is that what is happening now. The treatments for PFB, which is a genetically determined condition, are limited. They said, we can't undo genetics, the dermatologist said. And so really the only way around is you just shave and you endure the pain and the scarring. You do laser hair removal or you do a waiver. That's really the end of it. And that's why science is important, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is a genetic condition. And the dermatologist who's trained in this arena is correct. They can't undo the genetics of the thing at all. The military knows this. The powers that be are well aware. They're not implementing this new policy out of ignorance. They're implementing this new policy because they know good and damn well it discriminates against black folk, period. There's more. When asked whether the Marine Corps is concerned that the new guidance will disproportionately affect black service members and increase their chances of administrative separation, Major Jacob Gidding, a spokesperson for the Corps, Manpower and Reserve Affairs, said the following, quote, "This merit men does not lower our standard, but provides clear, standardized guidance on how medical conditions may temporarily impact grooming and uniform compliance," whatever the hell that means. For the time being, military medical officers can give a medical waiver to Marines diagnosed with the skin condition. The waiver will be reviewed and a commanding officer will have to sign off on it. Marines who need a waiver for over a year might be removed from service due to the new protocol. Do see what's happening here. This is a new policy to get rid of black folk in the military. Period. And if you have a shaving dynamic, a facial epidermal condition that's easily resolved by just allowing your hair to grow a little bit. And remember, the grooming standard is still applied because even with the allowing of your beard to grow, you still have to maintain strict grooming patterns in order to remain in the Marines, even if you get a waiver. But according to this new policy, if you need this waiver continually, they can remove you from service. And once again, the majority of who will ever have this condition are simply black men. All right, Jackson, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to just their stark efforts to clear DEI from everything, even the military, which is a voluntary force, I think it's obvious that that's what they're doing here as well. But it's just completely counterproductive because, like I said, it's a voluntary force. It's the military isn't something that every man has to join, every woman has to do it. It's not how it works here. So making it more difficult for people to volunteer to be a part of it just seems counterproductive to the idea of having a strong military, particularly when the military's been having recruitment issues. And they don't want to address that. They don't want to pay people more and give people better benefits and stuff like that. It's just, again, racism for racism's sake that's weakening us for the future.
Yeah, and creating a military in their image and in their likeness, and that is for a reason. There's a reason why Trump did not want black members as part of his immediate cabinet. There's a reason why the black elected officials who supported him got no love when he got elected. It is because they had a plan. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
There's one reason why healthcare is so messed up in this country, and that's because of our money in politics situation. Because those industries that are deeply corrupt can just simply purchase all of Congress. And then the problem never gets fixed because of that bribery. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's greed, and it's the greed of politicians, right? I mean, so everything they do is dictated by the donors and the money. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not everything. A lot of what they do is, and I do think that there are people who do things in spite of the fact that they have to raise money and often don't get that money and often don't win because they don't, but are in there fighting for ideals that they believe in. Bernie Sanders is certainly an example of someone like that.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
You want to know the 3 shows that I'm watching lately? Shogun, Anjin-san. Those guys are badasses. Then you go to the Duttons, Yellowstone. Now, they don't always do it right, but they are badasses. But the 3rd show has the biggest badasses of all, the Young Turks. Live every weekend. Sick that I was so good. God damn it. Okay, live. Weekdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. That's what I meant. Anjin-san. How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. Mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Thank you all for being advocates and joining us here at Indisputable and everything you do beyond this. We are greatly, greatly appreciative of every single one of you. All right. Okay, we got some comments. Selvy_Dragon says, when I served, I remember some of the guys would literally scratch and pick at their bumps to get the ingrown out in boot camp. It can cause permanent scarring. It's horrible. It is horrible, especially those that have it to a greater degree. It can be really bad. And Benadu says, if I were Black, I'm not sure I would want to serve in our present day military. And that's the idea. I believe they are intentionally creating these policies to weaken or lessen their diversity. Let's put it that way. Don O says, and as hard as it is to get recruits, let's make it even less appealing to a certain part of the population. That's right. And I think what they would do, create these policies, make it less appealing for certain demographics. And then when they do that and all these policies are set, all of the legal challenges have been settled, all of a sudden they will then pay a boatload more money to join the military. And now certain people can't even get in, nor do they have the desire to. That's just my hypothesis so far. Stackton, Florida says, wait, laser treatment to remove all facial hairs? WTF? Exactly. And Nish and no to lasers. Unfortunately, hair removal via laser doesn't particularly jive with the melanin. There's and I think increased risk. That's right, of laser burns. That's right. Significantly. Don't understand the complete science behind it, but it is bad. And I went through that process years ago, just for a few. And yeah, you feel every bit of those lasers, and it is not meant for your entire face. I don't even understand how somebody would do that kind of surgery for the entire face. All right. We have an update, ladies and gentlemen. Love is Blind cast member speaks out on the lack of diversity on the show. Here it is.
So you guys were like, in essence, the only Black couple, which I experienced on mine as well.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this season being so white?
Yeah, it was really unfortunate.
Is that like a kind of picture of Minnesota?
No,
okay,
it's not.
Okay,
we have the highest Somali demographic. We have the highest Hmong demographic. It's pretty diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was unfortunate that there wasn't more diversity on the cast. I think that there were 4 men who may have identified as Black men. So 2 African men and then 2 biracial men. There were more Black women. There were 5 Black women. But the Black men on the cast have said that they usually date white women.
Oh.
Yeah. So Devin, this wasn't in the final edit, but Devin in the pods tells me that his type is Alicia Keys.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, he probably gonna like me then because I fall under that a little bit. But later I found out very much that he normally dates white women.
Fascinating. Put it up full mass. Interesting background here. All right. So Love is Blind cast member Virginia spoke out on what on the What's the Reality podcast. So to review, in Love is Blind, couples connect in pods while talking to each other through a wall and get engaged before ever laying eyes on each other. Then spend 30 days together, first on a romantic getaway, and then in their home cities before deciding whether or not to go through with the weddings. As previously covered, Virginia said no at the altar to Devin due in part to his conservative political stances. And now she's calling out, the show's lack of diversity. So let's go to the creator. Love is Blind's creator is Chris Colin. Commented on the issue following the season 8 premiere of the hit Netflix show on Valentine's Day. Viewers were quick to notice that the cast was primarily made up of white contestants. Quote, well, the show cast itself, Colin explained to Entertainment Weekly. Quote, we put people in the pods and you try to have a very diverse group of people in lots of different ways at the start. And then the people who get engaged are the people who get engaged. The people who fall in love are the people who fall in love. End quote. In the past, about half of the contestants were white, but this time around that number is closer to 70%, according to EW. Quote, if you're sort of trying to tick a box, there were lots of people who were in the group coming into the pods who ultimately just didn't find their person and who didn't choose, and we didn't choose to follow, all right? However, in season 8, the same season as Virginia, another Black couple, Brittany Dodson and Mo and Dai also got engaged. But their entire courtship was not featured on the show. The couple ultimately did not get married as well, but most of the couples end up not married, but their experiences are still featured, okay? Also, in most seasons of Love is Blind, the cast looks to be diverse during the initial pod phase, but the show appears to now focus on the love journeys of white contestants more than others. And many Black contestants, especially Black women, are featured as mostly background characters, with only a handful getting covered. Asian cast members are rarely casted, let alone ever featured. All right. Here we go. This past season was set in Minneapolis, whose racial breakdown is 61% white, 18% Black, 2 other races, 9% Asian and Hispanic. The next season will be in Denver. All right. So Jackson, my people tell me you're headed to Denver.
Well, I've been hit up by a couple producers to be on shows like this. I'm glad I didn't do it. But I mean, I guess they, make America great again. You know what I'm saying? That's all this is at the end of the day. They just trying to bring us back to the good old days when everybody else wasn't included. Because I guess only white people have interesting dating lives or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen this show before, and I'm sure they'll figure it out, or I hope they figure it out.
Yeah, we shall see. All right.
Yeah.
By putting attention on it, maybe it allows for more diversity to happen in the future.
Maybe so.
We shall see. Dear brother, always a pleasure having you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Oh, yeah, always good to be here with you. Y'all can check me out at Politics and Paper on YouTube, youtube.com/@politicsandpaper. I got political stuff going on and a bunch of new stuff for the spring and summer that I'm excited about. Yeah, it's always good to be here with you.
Always good to have you, sir. All right, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.